A new report in Axios alleges that President Biden is known to maintain composure in public, even opting to whisper when making a point. But behind closed doors, the 80-year-old commander-in-chief has a short temper. Imagine that.
The report further makes the claim that Biden aides avoid meeting Biden alone in order not to face his fury. According to aides with whom Axios spoke, his outbursts have included, quote, "Gee, damn it, how the expletive, don't you know this? Don't BS me and get the expletive out of here." The story also maintained that those close to the president acknowledged he can be tough, but aides like working for him because he is compassionate and makes them feel like family. Rising reached out to the White House for comment but has not heard back. Right, so the article goes into some detail about these kind of statements. Don't effing BS me. I mean, obviously, we're editing these for the sake of civility here and kids that might be in the room. And I do think this is interesting because it paints such a contrast with his public image of being the nice uncle with the aviators and the ice cream.
But why should it? He lashes out in public all the time.
That's
He's
exactly.
made angry comments to people kind of out of nowhere. Because he's old and sometimes old people get upset.
But he has been doing this for a long time. I'm reluctant to even chalk it up to age. I think it's a disposition issue. So yes, my pushback against this reporting is only framing it as a novel thing that we didn't already know from his behavior on the campaign trail.
How sycophantic of this man do you have to be to think, well, he never gets angry in public? We've seen it. We have a clip of it. Let's play the clip.
Around a long time, and I know more than most people know, and I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on? Let's do push-ups together, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take my Number two. No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I
one.
didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that in MSNBC. You did not hear that. But you heard. Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do. But look, Fat. Look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does.
So there wasn't just that moment. There was a moment where he was on a kind of a factory floor with a bunch of workers in hard hats getting into an argument during the campaign, and he told a worker, "You're full of SHIT." There was a moment where he ends up kind of putting his hands on someone who disagreed with him backstage at an event during the primary. I mean, these episodes happen constantly, just in the context of his 2020 primary campaign, and nobody touched it. The media was really not interested in any of these stories. And
they emphasize that he's soft-spoken and stutters and kindly, old grandfatherly. No, grandfathers can be mean.
Many are. Now, I'm not inclined to say that this is the kind of thing that is disqualifying to be president.
You're allowed to get angry.
But it is worth noting that there was an entire media cycle arguing that Marianne Williamson had been unkind to staff and that was, in fact, disqualifying to her ambitions to be president of the United States of America. And her former campaign manager pointed it out this morning, I believe, in a tweet. He tweeted out, wait, weren't there 500 articles about Marianne Williamson saying that this just disqualified her?
I don't remember the Marianne mistreats her staff news cycle. I remember the Amy Klobuchar news cycle.
Yeah, for sure that happened as well.
Yeah, I don't care about any of those things, really. They seem like letting anonymous staff members gripe about work to, media publications that love drama is just something that should be ignored, in my view.
Yeah, so look, if there were an instance of
Wait, are we going to do a feminism? Are we going to claim that it's that women get shamed for this, but it's covered up when it's Biden?
I do think
we're doing a feminism.
Well, look, I'm sorry. I do think that there is I don't know what you want to attribute the indifference to his behavior. If you say it's just that he's genuinely likable, that this is something that has nothing to do with
we can't let Trump win.
Right, but it was a primary. It was a Democratic primary. At the beginning of the Democratic primary, Kamala Harris was polling on top. At some other points in the Democratic primary, Elizabeth Warren was polling on top. Throughout the entire Democratic primary, Bernie Sanders was polling at the top. So the idea that it had to be Joe Biden, who again lost the first 3 contests in 2020, that is not
after
a justification.
making such a charming impression on Iowan voters.
Right. Now, I will say there have been some others like Michael Bloomberg who have been notoriously awkward and unlikable and stiff in public and with their prospective constituents, bad at glad handing. There's been a lot of focus on Ron DeSantis's bad retail politics. He has all these awkward moments. He'll laugh weird and that'll dominate a news cycle. He took those beach photographs with his wife that I saw a lot of people dunking on Twitter because of a kind of stiff awkwardness in his persona in the photograph. There are these reports. I saw a cycle over the weekend where it was reported that he kind of sits quiet in group situations and doesn't engage in discussion unless he's prompted to do so. There was a stiff awkwardness around his Twitter Spaces launch where he ended up reading a stump speech into the computer without a crowd in a way that seemed to misunderstand the medium and why it could be beneficial to his campaign. So it has been, there are other people who have been criticized for this. Notably though, this is the first time that Joe Biden is getting an article like this that I can remember, despite being on the public scene for a very, very long time and having many, many public incidents of direct and sometimes physical confrontations with people who disagree with him.
Yeah, it's, I won't say that there's like no negative coverage or something of Joe Biden in the mainstream. There is, but there is an effort to paint him as a uniquely kind, warm, someone you would get along with, a member of your family kind of impression, which this was very different. It's human to get angry. You can get angry about things you're allowed to be frustrated with your staff if you're a political figure. So I don't know that this is the biggest deal ever. It's just the only story here is them trying to be like, oh yeah, nobody else has noticed this. We've noticed it. It was noticed.
Yeah, that is bizarre. I will say, well, let's drill down on the claims here a little bit. A staffer said that Biden has such a quick temper that some aides try to avoid meeting alone with him. Some take a colleague almost as a shield against a solo blast. I mean, is there a line between, a tough boss and someone whose temper is so extreme that it is perhaps getting in the way of them being able to be an effective boss?
But how old are these people who are complaining?
We don't know.
Because there are a lot of young. I'm going to do some generational warfare here. You got to talk to people very in a sensitive way these days, don't you think?
That might be true, but we have no evidence that the people who are complaining
Well, that's why
here.
I would like to know more about who's making those claims.
Yeah, and it is worth noting also that at other moments in time, folks have read into the choice of staffers to start talking to the press as evidence that the administration is losing confidence in that person, right? So when there were a bunch of stories about Kamala Harris and staff departures and things like that, it was rumored that she had lost the support and confidence in the administration, and we're going to try to replace Kamala Harris, those kinds of things. And I do wonder if having Biden staffers come out to talk now reflects some sense that he's not going to be running for a second term, that he is going to be replaced. The Democratic Party does not have as much confidence in him as they once did. It'll be interesting to see if this is a start of a flood of articles of this nature or just a one-off.
We will see. I predict that he will, in fact, be the nominee. More Rising right after this.